I, a 26-year-old male, resent my girlfriend of 5 years and don't know what to do. I, a 26-year-old male, have been dating my girlfriend, let's call her Monica, not her real name, for almost 5 years now. I would say from an outside perspective, we are the perfect couple who are madly in love, and everyone sees us that way. From her perspective, we are also the dream team and madly in love. Then there's me. My feelings of resentment and sadness grow by the day, and I honestly feel like I'm going to explode, and here's why. From the beginning of the relationship, I pay for about 90% of our dates and activities. This includes nice dinners, small vacations, day dates, etc. However, within the last 2 years, I have really stepped up my game as a man and focused on our financial future because we want to get married soon. Not only that, but I have struggled with depression since I was 16 and sometimes still struggle, but I have always been emotionally available and a supportive partner for her. I buy her clothes and constantly buy her gifts because she is a big saver and doesn't like to spoil herself, so I do it for her. Here's the issue. For the majority of our relationship in our early 20s, I usually worked more than her and made more money. Even with that, she was able to save a lot of money because we lived with our parents separately, and I was paying rent while she was not with her family. Well, in the past 2 years, she has moved up in her job and now makes about $56,000 a year. I was so happy for her promotion because she works so hard. My yearly income is about $32,000, which is far less than hers, yet I still pay for all of our activities and dates. And I also have to pay about $1,100 in rent a month to my parents while I build my career. But I'm starting to think things aren't what I thought. She has saved a total of around $40,000 since we started dating, and she likes to avoid the topic because she claims it's for school, which would be amazing if I believed it. I have barely been able to save because I am the person funding our relationship activities, and it has left me resenting her. I suspect her dad is actually funding her school, and she is lying to me and saving money while I continue to fund things. Some indications I have of this are her periodically flexing her savings, yet it keeps going up with no expenses, while her school is magically paid for. Also, I feel like she uses weaponized incompetence in order for me to buy things she needs, such as clothes and shoes, because she neglects to buy them herself, knowing I will. To clarify, she does truly love me, and I love her, and she has given me zero indication that she is intentionally using me, but I feel like she is unintentionally doing so. We plan on moving in together in August to an apartment, but I am terrified as she expects me to pay the rent and for her to pay the utilities, groceries, which isn't equal. I wake up some mornings and feel like I hate her, and she is ruining my life by trying to save for what I thought was our future. Lastly, there is an issue pertaining to the bedroom and how I don't feel sexually safe with her. She hates my kinks interests in the bedroom and has dragged me along thinking she likes them too. But she confessed that she secretly hates them. Lately, my body just rejects intimacy, or I just don't want to at all. And it has taken a mental toll on me to my absolute brink. Thank you guys. If you need me to elaborate more on a certain issue, I will try to reply quickly. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It sounds like you're in a tough situation, and it's important to address these concerns before they cause further strain on your relationship. Have an open and honest conversation with your girlfriend about your feelings of resentment and financial imbalance. Communication is key in any relationship, and expressing your concerns calmly and respectfully can help both of you understand each other's perspectives better. Discuss your financial expectations for the future, including how expenses will be divided in your upcoming move. It's essential for both partners to feel like they are contributing fairly. Additionally, address any issues in the bedroom openly and respectfully. Both partners should feel safe and comfortable expressing their desires and boundaries. Consider seeking couples counseling to help navigate these issues together. Remember, relationships require effort from both parties, and addressing challenges together can strengthen your bond in the long run. Comment 2. We can't give you insight into her feelings. Maybe a mutual third party could, though. Finances are one of the main sources of discontent in marriages. You should talk to somebody who knows both of you and your intentions. Use this third point of view to formulate a very kind way to talk about it. Other than this, it really is just mustering up the courage to advocate for yourself. I was in a hurtful relationship for a long time because I'm a people pleaser and would neglect to voice my opinions for fear of retaliation. Nobody deserves to be afraid of a partner's emotional reaction. I think out of all the things I see you've written in the original post, that is the biggest problem. You might tend to freeze up or stonewall, and it seems like your partner gets emotional during confrontation. You'll have to be very calm, but so consistent and strong. You can do this, man. You love her. Just go talk to her with that love you have for her. Now, for the update, thank you for checking back in. So, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. Remember how I said Monica was saving a ton of money? Well, turns out she was planning to use that money for something big, but not what I thought. She surprised me with tickets to Europe for a month-long trip. At first I was stunned and happy, but then I started thinking, how could she afford this when she said she was saving for school? I asked her, and she admitted her dad was indeed paying for her school. And she wanted to surprise me with this trip because she knew I'd never spend that much on myself. I should have been over the moon, right? But I wasn't. It felt like a slap in the face. All this time, I've been scraping by, paying for everything, and she could have easily contributed but chose not to. It made me feel used, even though she was smiling, thinking she did something great. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I found out she's been talking to her ex. Not just any ex, but the one she always said was the one that got away. I saw messages on her phone by accident when she asked me to check the weather for our trip. They were planning to meet up for coffee. When I confronted her, she said it was nothing, that they were just old friends catching up. But why keep it a secret? Why now? I was fuming, but I kept it to myself. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who gets jealous over an old flame. But it ate at me every single day. I started to pull away, which she noticed, and it led to more fights. She couldn't understand why I was upset when she was doing something nice for me with the trip. In the midst of all this, my own job got more demanding. My boss gave me more responsibilities, which meant longer hours and more stress. I was barely keeping it together, and Monica's actions weren't helping. Then came the shocker. Monica's best friend, who I've always been close with, told me Monica was planning to propose to me in Europe. She thought it would be romantic, a story to tell our kids. But I didn't want that. Not now. I felt trapped, like I was being pushed into a corner. I didn't want to marry someone who kept secrets and made me feel like a bank. So I made a choice. I told Monica we needed to postpone the trip. I said it was because of work, but really I needed time to think. She was devastated, couldn't understand why I would pass up such an opportunity. But I couldn't tell her the real reason. I couldn't admit that I resented her, that I felt betrayed. Now, we're in this weird limbo. She's hurt and confused, and I'm just angry. I know I should talk to her, lay everything out on the table, but I can't bring myself to do it. I'm afraid of what might happen if I do. So I keep it all inside. And every day it gets a little harder to pretend everything's okay. Thanks for reading. My partner's colleague mocks my DMV job and spreads lies. So I land a dream job and leave him questioning his choices as I move back home. I'm having a dilemma and I don't know what to do. 4 months ago, I, a 28-year-old female, moved away from home, a major city in the Southeast, to a college town in Colorado for my partner, a 34-year-old male who is in academia here. At the time, it made sense. My life was radically different. I had a remote job, enough disposable income to travel often, and figured I'd visit home for 2 to 3 weeks at a time every 3 months or so. A month after signing the lease and committing to moving, I was laid off. I went along with the move because backing out would mean screwing my partner over financially and leaving him with rent he couldn't afford. I spent a good 2 to 3 months unemployed and applying for every remote job I could find, and burned through a good chunk of my savings. Though I did receive unemployment, it barely covered rent. Nothing was clicking, so I applied at a temp agency and got a job at the DMV, as in the Department of Motor Vehicles. It is the most depressing office ever, and I honestly hate it, but am grateful I can pay my bills. I just can't visit my family, lol. I went to the food bank for the first time this year and feel so disappointed in myself. With remote work going away, it seems the thought of never getting to see the people I love at home breaks my heart. If I have to work in person, I'd rather be there than here. I know Colorado's beautiful, but I hate the cold, the lack of culture and diversity, and the high cost of living. I love warm weather and the ocean. I always thought if I left home, it would be to a seaside town, not to Colorado. It's just not my thing. I miss my family and friends, and I feel so lonely. Because of his dog, I left my cat with my parents who adore her. My best friend is having a baby, and my parents are growing older. The longer I'm here, the less I want to stay. My partner loves me a lot, but I feel like everything is about him. His career in academia, his dog, his wants, his needs. He doesn't understand what it's like to be forced to work a horrible job. Just quit. Find another job. Go back to school. Just visit for the weekend. Getting from our front door to the plane is a 5-hour journey that I don't want to make 2 days in a row. His family paid his way through his PhD program, and my parents could hardly help with my undergrad. If I went back to school, I'd need to move back in with my parents. We go out with his colleagues from work, and they all talk about this meaningful, impactful work they're passionate about, and then ask what I do for work. I'm too ashamed to tell them. He gets to pursue his career and hobbies, while I have to work at the DMV and hustle every spare second to try and land something better and do copywriting as a side hustle. I've forgotten my dreams completely because I can't afford to pursue them. I'm burned out, jealous, and growing bitter. I find myself forming an exit plan, and I feel horrible thinking these thoughts. I know I need to tell him how I feel, but I don't even know how. I'd love it if he'd move back with me at the end of our lease, but I'm doubtful if that will happen. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A month after signing the lease and committing to moving, I was laid off. Ick. I'm sure that messed up your plans. I went to the food bank for the first time this year and feel so disappointed in myself. At least it's keeping you alive, and in Colorado. With remote work going away, it seems, the thought of never getting to see the people I love at home breaks my heart. If I have to work in person, I'd rather be there than here. Then the die is cast. We know where we have to go now. I find myself forming an exit plan, and I feel horrible thinking these thoughts. And what we have to do to make it happen. It's what you have to do. Think of it as self-preservation. I know I need to tell him how I feel, but I don't even know how. You did a pretty good job here. Just tell him what you told us. Make it clear that you are telling him what's going to happen, and not necessarily asking for his buy-in. I'd love it if he'd move back with me at the end of our lease, but I'm doubtful if that will happen. Given how he and his colleagues get along, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Comment 2. I would give it a little more time, honestly. I have moved far from home in the past for a partner, and I understand how complicated that can be. But if it felt doable with your remote job and the flexibility it gave you, I would come up with a plan with him to find something like that, or if you can't, for you to head out. Maybe 6, 8 months would be realistic. If you can't find anything by that deadline and still feel the same, it's a natural time to move home. I do think you'd need to prepare for the possibility that you moving would mean an end to the relationship, and think about how that feels to you versus staying. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So, things went from bad to worse. Remember the colleague of my partner? The one who always had a snide remark ready. Well, she crossed a line. At a dinner, she openly mocked my job at the DMV in front of everyone. Said it was quaint that I was playing government worker. My partner laughed it off, but I saw red. I excused myself, went home, and cried. It felt like the last straw. A week later, I found out she was spreading rumors about me. saying I was leeching off my partner and that I had no ambition. It was humiliating. I confronted her and she just smirked, saying it was just a joke. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her she was toxic and that I wanted nothing to do with her. My partner tried to mediate, but I was done. I cut her off completely. But that wasn't the end of it. Her pettiness knew no bounds. She started causing trouble for my partner at work, questioning his judgment for being with someone like me. It put a strain on his professional life, and he was torn between his career and our relationship. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a company I'd applied to months ago. They offered me a job, a remote one, with good pay. It was a lifeline. I took it without hesitation. It meant I could save up, visit my family, and maybe even move back eventually. My partner was happy for me, but things between us were strained. The whole situation with his colleague had taken its toll. We were arguing more, and I could tell he was torn between his loyalty to me and the pressure at work. One night, he came home late, looking defeated. He'd had a falling out with his colleague, and it had gotten heated. She'd threatened to sabotage his research grant if he didn't sort out his personal life. He was scared of losing everything he'd worked for. We had a long, hard talk that night. I told him I couldn't stay in Colorado, not with all that had happened. I needed to be closer to my family, to the ocean, to everything that made me happy. He understood, but he couldn't leave his job. We decided to do long distance for a while, see if we could make it work. It was tough, but it was the only solution that didn't force one of us to give up everything. So I moved back home. I'm working remotely now, saving money, and I've even started taking online courses to pursue the dreams I'd put on hold. It's not perfect, but it's a start. My partner and I are still together, but it's hard. We're both trying to figure out if we can bridge the gap between our worlds. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend ditched our shared apartment for a grad school 50 minutes away and told me to get my own place. So I made him pay rent and fix my car when he came crawling back. My boyfriend and I have been together for over 4 years, a good portion of which was long distance, and moved into an apartment for the first time together last year. We also just renewed our lease for another year. I was planning on living at this apartment for the next couple of years while I finished graduate school, and we selected it so we are in between where we each need to be, so that our commutes are roughly the same, although both our jobs sometimes require us to drive further, depending on the time of year. When going to class, my commute is 40 minutes. Recently, he accepted a graduate position offered to him out of the blue at a school that is 50 minutes away. I'm happy for him, but was concerned about the logistics of our relationship and living situation, since he wasn't bringing anything like that up at all when deciding whether to take the position or not. I wanted reassurance that he had thought that part out, since this would affect me too. When I brought this up, he nonchalantly said that I'd probably have to get my own apartment or something. This upset me a lot because paying for our apartment on my own would leave me very strained financially, and I was not expecting to have to think about finding a new apartment and/or roommate so suddenly. Plus, we just signed the lease for another year and he would start this fall. I'm also hurt because I thought that he would want to at least try to express in any way that he would prefer to continue living with me. And also that he wouldn't try to have a conversation about this without me having to ask. It's like he just assumed that I would somehow know that this is what would have to happen. There have been times in the past year where it seems like he doesn't really think about me and his future. And this made me feel that way even more. He's made it sound like he would still plan on visiting me and stuff, but wouldn't pay for an apartment he isn't living in. It would probably be similar to how our relationship was before, when we were long distance. Part of the year he would be working in another state as a requirement for his program, which is more understandable to me, but also others in my program have to do the same thing and still pay rent to maintain their apartment. That's what I would do if my research required me to do so as well. Even disregarding that, he is planning to spend the rest of the time living at his family's home, which is closer to the school. In my opinion, school seems commutable from our apartment, especially since we both have experience driving further than that for work. I just am not sure how to handle the situation or how to express my feelings further. He doesn't really seem to want to discuss it more. And I find myself feeling really frustrated and stressed about the whole situation. So I don't really know what to say. I think that if he does end up just moving out like this, I'll probably end up feeling resentful, which wouldn't be great. So I'm not sure if the relationship would last. I don't know. Am I being unreasonable for being upset about this? Should I just let him do his own thing and just suck it up and figure it out while maintaining our relationship likely long distance again? Or should I think about trying to move on entirely? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I would prepare for a breakup. He is planning his future, not your future together. Plus, he does not want to discuss it and has been nonchalant and dismissive. Sorry this is happening. At least you have a bit of time to prepare. Comment 2. Did he sign the lease, right? So he is obligated to pay half the rent. I would find a man who appreciates you and considers you as a factor in his life. He is just going on with his life as he wants it and throwing you to the wolves. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around after my last update. Things have taken a turn and I'm still reeling from the shock of it all. So remember how my boyfriend nonchalantly suggested I get my own place? Well, he did one better. He moved out. Just like that, while I was at class, I came back to half the closet empty and his computer gone. No note, no text, nothing. I had to call him to confirm what I already knew. He said he couldn't handle the pressure I was putting on him about the living situation. Pressure? I was just trying to have an adult conversation. I was left with a lease I couldn't afford and a heartbreak I didn't see coming. My friend said I should have seen the signs, but love has a funny way of blinding you. I scrambled to find a roommate, but who wants to move in with a stranger halfway through a lease? Then, as if the universe hadn't had enough fun at my expense, my car decided it was time to break down. The mechanic's estimate was a gut punch. There went my savings. I was stranded, broke, and alone. But I had to keep going, right? Grad school waits for no one. In the midst of this chaos, my advisor dropped the news. My research funding, gone. Apparently there was some mismanagement of funds, and my project was one of many that got the axe. I was looking at a future of instant noodles and library all-nighters. But here's where things get interesting. My ex, the one who left me high and dry, suddenly needed a favor. His family's place, where he'd been staying, had a major plumbing disaster. He had nowhere to go, and would you believe it? He asked if he could crash on my couch for a few days. The nerve, right? I should have slammed the door in his face, but I didn't. Instead, I saw an opportunity. I let him in, let him get comfortable, and then I laid out my terms. If he wanted to stay, he'd have to pay his share of the rent for the remaining lease and help with the car repairs. It was that. Or find another bridge to sleep under. He was furious that I was being unreasonable and manipulative, but he had no choice. He agreed to my terms. I watched him write the checks, each stroke of his pen a small victory for me. It wasn't about the money, though that helped. It was about respect, about acknowledging that he couldn't just walk away from his responsibilities. So he's back for now. It's awkward, and we're not talking much. But every time he hands me a rent check, I feel a little piece of my dignity stitched back together. I'm still hurt, and I don't know what the future holds for us, if anything. But for now, I'm getting by, and that's enough. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.